it's going.
All right.
I'm getting a picture of that.
You guys ready? All right, I cannot tell you whose report I have here. It's not Avis, I promise. All right, we're going to go over self-assessment, really important here, because on the next one, it's going to be 50 points. I'm grading college level stuff, and it's going to be an assessment. It's not going to be independent work. The next one is real. First section, introduction. Common mistakes. You are not allowed to talk about what you do in the lab. So if you see big areas scribbled out, you talked about what happened in the lab. Remember, the introduction is only supposed to introduce what?
The topic.
The subject. What's the subject of the next one?
pH.
pH. You're just going to write about pH. You can't use you or personal pronouns. Check that out. You have to have correct sentence structure. It's got to be paragraphs. If you indent one paragraph, guess what you have to do to the next one? If you don't indent them, that's okay. There's two different formats to the lab report if everything's square. Before I continue, does how your lab report looks count? Yeah, you can't have weird things indented. Everybody stay with me. You should have your paper. You should have this out. I see people shuffling in my right corner here. Don't do that. This is critical. As a rule, these were terrible. College level, terrible. High school, not so bad. Make sure that you're not using you or personal pronouns, and make sure that the whole thing's formatted correctly and consistently. You can't have like 4 spaces, 2 spaces, 6 spaces, things all over the place, okay? Anybody have any questions about introduction? If anything comes up, let me know as we write the next one. 2, materials. Just to review, how many columns? 2 columns. If you have an extra one, where does it go? On the left. Do you have to have a bullet or something to represent each thing? Yes. Are you allowed to write down things you're not using in the lab, like newspaper? No. You have to write down what you used. What does CP stand for? Colored pencils. CP stands for colored pencils. If at this point you saw FE on your paper, that's a format error. Format error. You didn't follow the format. Okay? So make sure we look at materials. Some people didn't put the Roman numerals next to the word. You have to do that. Roman numeral 1, introduction. Roman numeral 2, materials. All right, let's go to procedure. A couple of big items. It has to be step by step. No double, triple steps. If I have DS on there, that stands for double step. If I have TS on there, that's triple step. Sometimes I wrote it out. That's a format error. You lost a point. On the next one, if you have double steps, you're not even going to get a grade. You're going to get it back. I want it done correctly one time going out the door so I know you're ready for the next level. You needed 3 parts to the procedure. The letter E or R. Not both. 1, whatever you did. Specifically what you did. Number 2, the cross threads. And number 3, you had to have the instructions for the prepared slides. And in this class, period 3, most of you didn't include that. Remember the 3 slides, the drawings in color, low, medium, high? Yes? Yeah? Question?
What does PS mean?
Prepared slides. You didn't have the
Okay.
instruction for it. Yeah, PS stands for prepared slides. Question mark, where's it at?
Wait, I did do it though.
Prepared slides?
Yeah.
Really?
Place prepared slide on stage.
Yeah. But you don't have any of the drawings and color stuff, so that's just hanging instructions.
What?
You had to, all the prepared slides had to be drawn on high, medium, and low. Oh, I know you did it. It doesn't say that in the instruction though.
Okay.
Instruction must match, the procedure must match what you did exactly. That's why more steps is better than less steps. Any other questions there? All right, one thing before we move on. Listen, I saw this on a number of papers. You cannot put Roman numeral 3 procedure at the bottom of the page and then the first step is where? Nope. You have to shuffle that heading to the next page so it's where it's supposed to be with the instructions. You don't leave hanging things. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Format counts. Flow counts in the paper. It's got to flow from page to page like somebody would think about it and read it. All right, here we go. Number 1 thing missed in the instructions, in the procedure. Most of you said put the cover slip on. How? Weren't there specific instructions on how to put the cover slip on to avoid air bubbles? Yeah. Touch it to the glass at what angle?
45.
Slide it over to the water, let the bead form, drop it slowly. All of that should have been in there. But in high school, we tend to take shortcuts. In college, you're going to take the long cut. No shortcuts. More work, better than less work. Data. What did I ask you to write in the data section? See attached forms. Some of you went out on a limb, did whatever you wanted there. You lost points for that. Now, the data section had to include all of the correct answers to the packet, which we went over as a family, and it had to include the drawings, and they had to be in the correct order. So if you see O on your paper, that means out of order. You might think that's insignificant, but I'm preparing you for the next level. When somebody with a PhD tells you what to do, what should you do? You should just do that. Yeah, just feed the baby. Oh man, I hope a professor doesn't see that. All right, conclusion. How many paragraphs? I asked for 2 paragraphs. One of the paragraphs was about the letter E or R, and the other one was about the cross threads, correct? Yeah. In that first paragraph, you had to identify the E or the R. The R had to be what kind of R? Capital, and the E had to be
Lowercase.
If you made mistakes, you'll see that circled over and over and over and over again. You might also see out of order in your discussion. People, what comes first in the paragraph based on the instruction? What should come first in that paragraph?
E or R.
The data point. Your paragraph should have started off with this sentence. The letter E under the microscope was inverted and reversed, because that's exactly what I told you to say. I bet you only 30% of the crowd in both classes actually said what I told you to say. That letter was inverted and reversed. Step 2 in that paragraph, you had to explain what inverted and reversed was, upside down and backwards at the same time. Then you had to say why. Why? Mirrors, good job. Mirrors, 3 parts to that paragraph. And they had to be in that order, because that's how logical science people think. We don't put the explanation and then the data point second or third. It just reads weird. I'm not being mean. Sometimes when you write something, read it out loud or have somebody read it to you. Sometimes I wrote that on your paper. Read this out loud. Tell me what it sounds like. Paragraph 2 was the cross threads. Here's the order of content which was presented in your notes. Data point 1. When looking at the threads on low power, they were both in focus. So many of you said, we could see both of them. No kidding. You're looking through a lens. Of course you can see them. You had to say that they were what? In focus at the same time, then explain it. Because there was minimal magnification, they're on the same focal or visual plane. That's all you had to say. Then data point 2. When switching to which power? Medium power. You guys said at higher powers, at high power. You have to be specific in science. There's no dancing around the rosy bush. No. Go right to it. You had to say that when switching to medium power, only one thread was in focus at a time. Quote, that's what I wrote. Then you had to explain it. As you increase magnification, you also increase what? Not density. What's the right word? Depth. You had to reference depth of field focusing. Some of you said a lot of things that were around that, but you had to mention the word depth in the explanation. Look how many U's you used. I think one person in 2 paragraphs had 18 U's, Y-O-U's, wrote them out, 18. Oh, no, was that you? Sorry about that.
No, it wasn't.
It's not you. You're close, though. You're up there in the competition. Don't write like you speak. Next point in the conclusion. Stop with the weird fluff. If you see entire sentences with lines through them, it's because they're not necessary. Science is direct, to the point, and let me say for my own field, boring. Have you ever read a science textbook? Have you ever thought, wow, that was a good read. I like the way that story ended. No. It's just content. Jammed down your throat. In, out. Nice and smooth, easy peasy. So when we do the conclusion, what should you write? Exactly what I tell you to write. In what order? In the order I tell you, because that's what you need to do when you go to college. So even if you're just listening to me, you're still experiencing the way it should be. Everybody with me? Yay. All right, are there any other abbreviations or anything that I didn't go over that you can't read? If you ever see, if I took off a point and then scribbled it over, it's because you covered it later and then I reassessed, changed my mind. Okay? No other questions. Now listen, I don't want this performance on the next one. What should we do if we're self-assessing right now?
Increase.
Remember, there's no feelings to success. Nobody cares. Nope, I'm telling you the truth and being brutal, because if I don't, you'll think it's okay. And anytime you ask an adult, is this okay? You already know what?
That's bad.
It's a pile of crap. See you next time.